Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Bhagavatam A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Munamai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is chapter 6, the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva, Canto 5. And we'll be reading text of the summary of the chapter here. What do you call this? Yeah, chapter summary, and then the first verse and second. This chapter, so the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva, that's chapter 6. This chapter tells how Lord Rishabhadeva left his body. He was not attached to his body, even when it was being burned up in a forest fire. When the seed of fruit of activity is burned by the fire of knowledge, the spiritual properties and mystic powers are automatically manifest. Yet, Bhakti Yoga is not affected by these mystic powers. An ordinary yogi is captivated by mystic powers and his progress checked. Therefore, a perfect yogi does not welcome them. Because the mind is restless and undependable, it must remain always under control. Even the mind of the advanced yogi, Yogi Sabari, created such a disturbance that he lost his yogic mystic power. Due to a restless mind, even a very advanced yogi can fall down. The mind is so restless that it induces even a perfect yogi to be controlled by the senses. Therefore, Lord Rishabhadeva, for the instruction of all yogis, showed the process of quitting the body. While traveling in South India through the provinces of Karnataka, Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, Lord Rishabhadeva arrived in the neighborhood of Kutakachala. Suddenly, there was a forest fire that burned the forest and Lord Rishabhadeva's body to ashes. The pastimes of Lord Rishabhadeva as a liberated soul were known by the king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka. This king's name was Arhat. He later became captivated by the illusory energy, and in this condition he set forth the basic principles of Jainism. Lord Rishabhadeva set forth the principles of religion that can free one from material bondage, and he put an end to all kinds of atheistic activities. On this earth, the place known as Bharatvarsha was a very pious land because the Supreme Lord appeared there when he wanted to incarnate. Lord Rishabhadeva neglected all the mystic powers for which the so-called yogis hanker. Because of the beauty of devotional service, devotees are not at all interested in so-called mystic power. The master of all yogic power, Lord Krishna, can exhibit all powers on behalf of his devotee. Devotional service is more valuable than yogic mystic powers. Devotees who are sometimes misled aspire for liberation and mystic powers. The Supreme Lord gives these devotees whatever they desire, but they cannot attain the most important function of devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is guaranteed for those who do not desire liberation and mystic power. I'd like to chant the verse.
Rajovacha nanunam bhagava atma ramanam yoga samirita jnanava barjita karma bijanam aishwaryani punak kleshadani bhavitum arhanti yadrichayopagathani.
All right, word by word. Rajavacha. King Parikshit inquired. Na, not. Nunam, indeed. Bhagavaha, O most powerful Shukadeva Goswami. Atmaramanam, of pure devotees simply engaged in devotional service. Yoga Samirita, achieved by practice of yoga. Jnana, by knowledge. Avabarjitaha, burned. Karma bijanam, of those whose seeds are fruit of activities. Aishwaryani, the mystic powers. Punaha, again. Kleshadani, sources of distress. Bhavatum, to become. Arhanti, are able. Yadrichaya, automatically. Upakatani, achieved. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, My dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, and attachment for fruit of activity is completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabhadeva neglect them? Purport. A pure devotee is constantly engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained. Though it may appear to be the result of mystic yoga power, Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. A little quantity of gold captivates foolish people, and thus the yogi gets many followers who are willing to accept such a tiny person as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a yogi may also advertise himself as Bhagavan. However, a devotee does not have to exhibit such magical wonders. Without practicing the mystic yogic process, he achieves even greater opulence all over the world. Under the circumstances, Lord Rishabhadeva refused to manifest mystic yogic perfections, and Maharaj Parikshit asked why he did not accept them, since, for a devotee, they are not at all disturbing. A devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material opulence. His concern is how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If by the grace of the Supreme Lord, a devotee achieves extraordinary opulence, he utilizes the opportunity for the Lord's service. He is not disturbed by the opulence. I'll just read one more. Text 2. Srila Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they are always vigilant. They always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action." Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 5, Lord Krishna says, "Yagyadana tapa karma natyajam karyam evatat yagyo danam tapastraiva pavanani manishinam." Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Even one who has renounced the world and has taken sannyas should not renounce chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Renunciation does not mean that one has to renounce Sankirtan Yagya. Similarly, one should not renounce charity or tapasya. The yoga system for control of the mind and senses must be strictly followed. Lord Rishabhadeva showed how severe types of tapasya could be performed, and he set an example for all others. Om Niganatividandasya Kananchana Shalakaya Chakshulanamaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karitibachalam Pangam Nangai Te Girim Yakipatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinitaridam Bancha Kalpadribhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this question being brought up by Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami, he's saying that why did he's making the point that that those who are pure in heart, completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activities completely burned to ashes. For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rishabhadeva neglect them? So that's the question. And then the answer that Shukadeva Goswami replied with was that, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action." So in other words, a spiritual practitioner, they should be cautious. They should be careful. Not that they should think that I'm so powerful, I'm so great, I have such control of my mind, I could take some risks and not be affected. In other words, the consciousness is very delicate, and as Shukadeva Goswami says here, is that once after capturing an animal, a hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who advance in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. So, in other words, if we're able to, get some control over our mind, we have to be conscious and careful that our mind remains under our control. Our senses remain under control. And we shouldn't think that, okay, well now I've become a Goswami, and now I could do whatever I want. Or Prabhupada said about devotees, right? Or one time he was chanting Hare Krishna on his beads, Srila Prabhupada was chanting, and then he put his beads down, and he said, okay, now I finished my 16 rounds, now I could do any damn thing I want. And he put his beads down. And he was, talking about devotees. It's kind of... So yeah, we have to be careful. For example, if one is addicted, if one is attached to the material enjoyment or to the material world in different ways, or to Maya, to the illusory energy, then one should keep a distance. Of course, it may be difficult to keep a distance because we're in, this. But as far as possible, we should try to keep a distance. For example, alcoholism, it's a real thing, and it destroys people's lives. They have a whole, Alcohol Anonymous 12-step program. One person who's been coming to the lounge, he's a devotee, and he's chanting Hare Krishna. And I remember him years ago, and he didn't come around for years because he said he was drinking a lot. And aside from drinking a lot, he became ashamed to come to the temple, embarrassed, like guilty, right? So he didn't come for years. And then recently he started coming around, and I was talking to him, and he said that the 12-step program that he went through, it helped him not feel guilty, not feel bad, and then he came to the temple. So now he's coming, so he was a nice guy. But it's a real thing. I mean, he's now like a counselor for other alcoholics, and they talk on the phone and all this. So it's a whole. So for an alcoholic to go into a bar, I mean for somebody who is trying to overcome this disease of being an alcoholic. And, they're making some progress. They haven't done it in 30 days or however long. They're making some progress. For them to step foot into a bar, it's not recommended. It's not like it's just not recommended because desires can arise, right? And one could fall back into that activity. So similarly, in relation to the material energy, relation to Maya, people are attached to so many things. It means devotees coming to Krishna consciousness, coming to the Krishna consciousness movement. They may have been attached to so many things, Mayic things. So and to some degree, they may have been able to overcome those things, right? We hope. By the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of the spiritual master and the devotees. So, but they should be careful, we should be careful that we don't closely associate with whatever those things might be, because we may fall back into that mode. Just like when Srila Prabhupada was in Prabhupada's first airplane ride, first ever in his life, I believe. Anyways, maybe he had, mostly in the Leela Amrita says Prabhupada was taking trains around. It doesn't say Prabhupada hopped on a flight in his early life either, but definitely in his later life, the first plane he ever got on, and I think the first plane trip he ever took in his life was from New York City to San Francisco. Shamasundar Prabhu, who, by the way, he wrote his volume 3, Chasing Rhinos. It's done. It's done, and it's available for order. If you order, it'll be here in the beginning of November, which is October now, so it's coming soon. The book is coming here soon. And a side note on that book is, like I mentioned this before, but I asked Shamasundar Prabhu about coming here to San Diego, and he said, I could come to one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite cities, San Diego. And then I asked him, I said, why? I never heard that before, that was Prabhupada's favorite city. What did you mean by that? And he said, for that, you'll have to wait for volume 3, So Prabhupada coming to San Diego, so we'll read about that, volume 3. So, but Shamasundar Prabhu, who, actually Mukunda Das, or became Mukunda Goswami, he left New York with Janaki, right? And they had these ideas of going to India, this and that, but they were stopping off in San Francisco. So then they stopped off in, I think, Redwoods or something, where Shamasundar, Sam and his girlfriend, Melanie, right, becomes Malati, I think, right? Anyways, they were there, and Mukunda met them and invited them down to San Francisco, and then eventually Srila Prabhupada came and started the Hare Krishna movement in San Francisco. So when Srila Prabhupada came, the devotees arranged that all of these really important bands, rock bands, were going to perform, and Srila Prabhupada was going to come there and speak and lead kirtan. So that's what happened. There was whatever, maybe to some people these names don't mean anything. I'm not sure that in India, all the rock bands of the 60s, and do people listen to the rock bands of 60s and 70s in India? Probably not. Maybe some people do. Who knows? The rock bands of 60s and 70s in India, people listen. Anyways, so Moby Grape, Moby Grape, Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, who else? Anyways, other groups. But these were humongous, rock star personalities within America, and maybe not so much even then, but as time went on, they became very famous. So Prabhupada was scheduled to go there, and he went there. And Allen Ginsberg was there, and he spoke a little bit. He chanted Hare Krishna a little bit, and Big Brother and the Holding Company was there. So they started chanting, and then all the rock bands, they started participating. They got on stage and they started, right, with all their instruments, and Prabhupada was chanting, all the devotees were chanting, and then started dancing, and the whole crowd was dancing, and everybody was in ecstasy, all the hippies there. They were real hippies too, actually. It's hard to find a real hippie these days. So it was just an amazing program, and it went late into the evening. So then eventually, Srila Prabhupada, with a few of his disciples, they're walking out. And as Srila Prabhupada was walking out, Mukunda Goswami writes in his book that he saw one devotee, Prabhupada's personal assistant, male assistant, or servant that came from New York with Srila Prabhupada. While they were walking out, Srila Prabhupada and a few devotees, Mukunda said that he looks to the left and he sees Prabhupada's male assistant dancing in the rock concert. They're leaving, so this devotee was dancing there, he was staying a little longer. He was by some, girl or whatever. So they walk out. And while Srila Prabhupada was walking out, Mukunda Goswami doesn't write that Srila Prabhupada, looked and saw that devotee, but he said he saw him anyways. But while they were walking out, Srila Prabhupada made a comment. He said, all right, we're leaving now. And he said, this is no place for a brahmachari. In other words, it was inappropriate, a bunch of licentious, what is it? Licentious women, men, and all together, and a bunch of hippies and dancing, this and that, and a bunch of drugs. So this is no place for brahmachari. We're leaving. So the devotees left. And again, Mukunda Goswami looked over and saw that devotee dancing with that girl, and then they left, right? So then, later, Mukunda Goswami writes in his book how this devotee, the next day, he goes to Srila Prabhupada, the personal servant or assistant from New York, disciple of Prabhupada, goes to Srila Prabhupada and says, oh, Srila Prabhupada, last night I met this girl at the concert, and I want to go back to New York City with her. And that's what he did. And of course, Prabhupada, I don't exactly know what he said. Mukunda Goswami doesn't go into details what Prabhupada said, but that's what the devotee told Prabhupada, and that's what he did. Some girl, non-devotee girl. So, we have to be careful. We have to be conscious that, and whatever it may not be a girl. There's so many things, right, to derail, a person's mind. So we have to be careful that we don't, get close. And close just as it may mean physical proximity, but also it means mentally. Because we could be 1,000,000 miles away from Las Vegas, for example. But if our minds, absorbed in the activities there, I don't know, anyways. But then that's, what is that, right? So we also, the activities, you could say, not Las Vegas, but we could be 1,000,000 miles away from the activities of Las Vegas, right? Everybody knows what goes on there. So, you don't know what goes on there? Huh? You know? Huh? Yeah. So, we could be 1,000,000 miles away from the activities of Las Vegas in physical proximity, right? But mentally, we have to be away. We have to retreat from all that stuff. So therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, right? We're chanting every day, Hare Krishna, Hare, on our beads, which is the you could say the spiritual practice, which is the foundation of our spiritual lives. Without japa, you might as well there's no foundation. Like if a building doesn't have a foundation, then what happens? Any construction workers? Huh? Collapses over time, right? Or later it starts going like this, right? The building starts. What's wrong with that building? Oh, well, the foundation's not so good. So japa is the foundation of our spiritual lives. We shouldn't think that we're going to be successful at all on any level without strong japa. It's impossible. So we should better try to surrender and focus. Try to make advancement in japa. So chanting of japa, for example, it is a time where we're supposed to retreat, right? We're retreating into the hearing and chanting of the holy names of Krishna, Radha Krishna actually, not just Krishna, but Radha Krishna. And we're supposed to be giving ourselves, or you could say we're supposed to be giving our minds a break from all external, the whole external cosmos, right? whatever's going on in the universe. Just give ourselves a break, give our minds a break, and just retreat into hearing and chanting the holy names of Krishna, Radha Krishna. So if we're able to do that at that time, then that will provide a platform for us to be successful throughout the day in terms of retreating, our minds retreating from all these external activities that are no good, right? Just like Srila Prabhupada was asked about book distribution. Srila Prabhupada, how do we distribute more books? Well, you got to give him a big smile, right? Give him a big smile, and we'll take many books. Or you got to, I don't know. You got to talk a certain language, then they'll take certain books, certain slang, right? Then they'll take books. Well, Prabhupada said purity is the force, but Prabhupada said that, what you could do to distribute more books is that he said that you sit down and you start chanting Hare Krishna, your 16 rounds, at least 16 rounds, and you don't stop until you finish your 16 rounds, very focused. He said that's how you could distribute more books. Now, of course, someone may say, oh, well, I can't do that because there's only 2 hours in the period and I chant a little slow, or I got to do deity backup, or this and that. So we take it in principle that as far as possible, we do that. And ideally, we do that somehow or other. And that will help. Or as Savas Prabhu was also asked, which Savas, Prabhu knows about book distribution, but he was asked about book distribution, and he gave the answer that if we're able to conquer our minds at that japa period, means to hear and chant and to neglect everything else, then when we go out to distribute books, that will be a platform for us to be more focused and more concentrated and more successful. In other words, if we fail in the morning, there's going to be some failure later in focusing. So those are in relation to book distribution. So Krishna consciousness, it's not only performed with the body, right? Like we're bowing down, right? Bowing down, bowing down, bowing down, bowing down. But it's savadana mate, right? That has to be done with great concentration. That we bow down to the spiritual master with great concentration, and Krishna and the devotees, with consciousness. So, because Krishna consciousness, there is some externality to it in the sense that we do engage our body. That's part of surrendering to Krishna, right? We're waving the incense. We're cooking, right? It's not that we could just cook in our mind. Hey, Prabhu, can you do the Rajbhog offering? Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Don't worry. I'm stirring the sabji right now in my mind while I'm laying down because I'm feeling tired. Let me know how it turns out, the offering, mentally. So we have to go in there, right? We have to cut the vegetables. We have to, stir the sabjis. We have to put the spices. It's a whole thing. You can't just, I'm just doing it in my mind. So there is an external means engaged in our body, right? But our mind should be engaged too, thinking of Krishna, right, while we're cooking, listening to a lecture, listening to the holy names. Also on the deity altar, right? If we're waving the incense and we're thinking about the activities of Las Vegas, then it's not good. It's not complete. So, of course, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur describes that in the stages of bhakti that we go through, one of them is the mind thinking of material things while engaged in devotional service. He describes that. But we should understand that is not ideal, and we should understand that that's something that needs to be worked on. That, okay, I'm engaged in devotional service, my body and whatever, and my mind to some degree. But if my mind's deviating, thinking of material things, then I have to work on that. I have to try to, right? Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Think of Krishna. So yes, Shukadev Goswami, he's saying that we have to be vigilant and watch the mind's action. And also in the previous in the purport, Prabhupada talks about how Rishabhadeva he neglected these mystic powers, and Prabhupada explains in the purport how there's so many cheaters or false Bhagavans or false Krishnas who they claim to be Krishna just because they have some mystic power, right? Like producing gold, yeah, like Sai Baba, right? I never watched that, but anyways, something of gold and this and that. And Prabhupada says many followers, they accept him because of producing that, right? So this is the unfortunate state of people. So therefore, we're distributing so many books. We're trying to distribute so many books. We're trying to learn the philosophy of Krishna consciousness so that when people come, right, because one thing to distribute books and then people come, they have a lot of questions, so we should be able to answer those questions, right, very thoroughly. Or else we may be taken as sentimental, we may be taken as fanatical, we may be taken as just another, as in people's eyes, dumb religion. So we have to know the books so we could satisfy people's inquiries. So we're distributing so many books. One reason is to give people the right idea. Well, the main reason is give people the right idea, right? What is life all about? What's real knowledge, right? And part of people understanding real knowledge is they understand that who is real Bhagavan, who is not. Because although it seems like a simple thing, there's so many people who accept people as God. It's amazing. A lot of it in India, but still, it's amazing, actually. So that's one of the benefits of book distribution, give people the right idea who's Bhagavan. So lastly, we may become renounced from this material world, but we shouldn't become renounced from the chanting of Hare Krishna. So it's not that Hare Krishna is like some elementary thing, and I do that when I'm new, and then when I become advanced, I don't have to engage in kirtan anymore, I don't have to engage in japa anymore. When we become advanced, we will engage in kirtan, we will engage in japa with more relish, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was the most, right? I mean, it's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're having kirtans, right? Every day, long kirtans. And they're chanting 64 rounds japa at least every day. So, Srila Prabhupada also. So we become renounced, but not from the Sankirtan Yajna. So we shouldn't, it means that Krishna is advising that we should engage in sacrifice, charity, penance, all these things, because they purify even the great souls. So they should never be given up. And lastly, it says here, Lord Rishabhadeva showed how severe types of tapasya could be performed, and he set an example for all others. So the next few verses we'll hear more about the mind. There's a very, these are famous verses actually. Srila Prabhupada spoke on them. These next few verses about the nature of the mind. So yeah, they're good lessons. So if we could try to, concentrate and get something out of them, be valuable. Okay, does anybody have any question?
Hare Krishna?
Yes, please ask.
Thank you, Balaram Prabhu. My humble obeisance. Prabhu, the quote from the purport is, quote, a devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material opulence, end quote. So, Prabhu, you know better than me that Srila Prabhupada, he established his worldwide movement, a religious movement, and because of his success, which was there being corroborated by the court judges of your country, who said that Srila Prabhupada's movement was a genuine movement. So my question is, do you know any pastime related to Srila Prabhupada not being the least disturbed by all the success that he achieved?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking of one that comes in my mind. Srila Prabhupada, he went to Detroit, Michigan, and there he had two wealthy disciples, Ambarish Prabhu, Alfred Ford, and also, what was her name? The other, Lekha Shravanti. Where is she now? Is she around? Yeah. She's still around? Oh, nice. Her father was like, I don't know, what, some type of, yeah, her father was a union organizer, so she was also. Anyway, so they were there, and then Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees, they were looking for a new property for the Detroit temple. So they came across this property, which is a very beautiful property, mansion, actually. And the man, he was an interesting man, but he owned this property, and it was just, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I never went there, but I saw a few pictures, and I'm sure a few devotees here went, but it's absolutely amazing. And the rooms are just, I mean, all of the marble and all of the precious materials that everything was made out of, and the carving, it's just like very expensive mansion. So then Srila Prabhupada went there and he spoke to this man, and first thing he told the man, more or less, was that, oh, we're mendicants. We're traveling mendicants. Can you just give this to us for free? And the man, almost had a heart attack or something. So, no, I can't. I can't do that. And there was something that, like, in the insurance policy of this mansion, the insurance agency said, okay, we could insure this to a degree, but the things in this room are and many of these rooms are just irreplaceable. The different materials, marble from Brazil, this and that. It's just irreplaceable. So to a degree, we could insure you, but not completely. So just very amazing mansion. So Prabhupada started like that. So the man said no, and then Prabhupada he negotiated with them. And eventually he got a really good price, low price, good price. And then Ambarish combined with Lekha Shravanti, they paid. And then later on, the man, he was thinking, oh, what did I do? Because in so many cases, Prabhupada had this kind of mystic, but he had this mystic convincing power that he convinced people of certain things for Krishna and certain deals about temples, this and that. And there's a few cases where people were thinking, what did I do? What did I just sign? The contract. So the guy's saying, what did I just do? I just signed this over for a low price. So they actually said that the guy later on, he actually came while the devotees were out, and he was like inside the mansion trying to take off the chandelier, do things like that. And then the devotee said, oh, what are you doing? Your spiritual master cheated me, And so eventually, they got he moved on, and they had that mansion, right? Which is absolutely, beautiful. So when Srila Prabhupada was in his elderly years there, in his age, right, of the body, and he's the spiritual master of the Hare Krishna movement, he could have just said, all right, well, here it is, now I'm going to stay here and, retire here, and I have some disciples who will take care of me in this big mansion. But what did Srila Prabhupada do? Next 2 days, gone. Off to Nigeria, wherever, off to Africa, off to here, they're traveling, So that was an example of Srila Prabhupada not being bewildered or disturbed by material opulence. And there's so many examples of Prabhupada not being. So it's not like there's people who have misconceptions, oh, the spiritual master of the Hare Krishna movement, he's just, sitting back and he's got all of his disciples just working hard. And no, Srila Prabhupada worked the hardest, actually. So that's...
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, thank you very much for a wonderful answer to my question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
If I could just expand for a second on
Yes.
that. In the incredible saga of getting the land for the Bombay Temple and finally building it. So there was one, as everyone's well aware who read the book, is that at one point some of his leading disciples, they just couldn't fathom how anything would grow. You know, how could we build out here? It's remote at that time, remote from the city. It was full of rats. It was overgrown. It was like, so they actually gave the land back, although nothing was signed, no money took part. He was trying to get the land back, and Prabhupada heard about it, and when he just hung up, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like he was so disturbed that he didn't keep, trying to figure out a way to get around the whole thing, which eventually he did. So that's another side of it, is that when reverses come, he also is not taking that, to heart, and it's not disturbing him so much. That's both sides.
Yeah, quickly in relation to that, Prabhupada, when he was signing the contract with Mr. Nair, because actually, I think it was the second time where the devotees gave back the land to him, and then Tamal Krishna Goswami was with Srila Prabhupada, and they called Mr. Nair and his lawyer, and they all met, the four of them, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, and Mr. Nair and his lawyer. And then they were talking, they had, dinner and this and that, I think it was lunch, and then Mr. Nair started to say, oh, Swami, are you feeling a little tired? Because, you look a little tired. And Prabhupada said, yeah, I mean, he made the point to Tamal Krishna Goswami, when someone says that you're looking tired, you're feeling tired, that means they're feeling tired, So anyways, he arranged that Mr. Nair and his lawyer his guru could have a little rest, right? His guru. So then, so they were resting, and Srila Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Goswami was in the other room. And then Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna Goswami, go wake up Mr. Nair right now and tell him that I want to talk to him immediately. So then Tamal Krishna Goswami says, oh, Mr. Nair, come, Prabhupada wants to talk to you immediately. And then the guru was sleeping there, So then Mr. Nair came, and then Prabhupada started talking to him. And then they convinced them to give the land back, sign the contract. And then they printed everything out, and they signed, and that was it. Amazing, mystic. So, yeah, the guru wasn't happy, right? All right. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.